So today we learned a lot more about how January 6th happened with testimony from witness after witness about one of the most shameful episodes in our history. Joining me now, CNN counterterrorism analyst Philip Mudd, CNN political commentator Ashley Allison, CNN legal analyst Elliot Williams, and CNN political commentator Alice Stewart. Good to see all of you, except for Phil Mudd. So I'm going to start with Phil Mudd.
Don't jump ugly with me. It won't go well.
Phil, the committee really hammering home that Trump wanted people to march to the Capitol. He really wanted them there and that it was pre-planned. How do you think the committee did laying out Trump's culpability in all of this?
Well, shockingly, you started wrong, Don. They didn't hammer it home. They've hammered home one piece of the story here. That is, if you look at the election interference or the attempted election interference, what happened and the president's responsibility for it. For example, calling down to Georgia to say, I want to find fake votes. I don't know how you get around that one. The president is culpable. His intent is clear. His involvement is clear. On this one, you have comments like from the president, it's going to be a big day and come down for a major event. If you're defending the president, and remember, there's no defense here, somebody's going to say he never told them to go break windows at the Capitol. I think the committee on the issue of election interference is clear and compelling. I think on this today, they didn't make a case and not even close.
Elliot, you're the attorney here.
I am. That is true. Okay, so the question of did they make a case or not, and I think, and as much as I love my friend Phil Mudd, I think we're holding Congress to the wrong standard, right? It's the Justice Department's ultimate job to decide whether you can move forward with the case. Congress is quite persuasively making the argument that, number one, historically bad things happened on January 6th. Number two, there may have been any number of crimes committed, one by President Trump, two by his senior advisors, three by, we're giving Rudy Giuliani a free pass here by not talking about him. But, this argument that we're falling into quite often, that somehow Congress needs to be able to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that anybody has committed a crime is just, it's holding Congress to the wrong standard. It's a political body that has the power to refer charges to the Justice Department, who can bring cases. But I think Congress did a great job today for what they set out to do.
I think a lot of this too, if you sort of pick up what they're putting down, as they say, it sounds like Congress is sort of signaling to the Department of Justice. I mean, the committee showed images of Oath Keepers with Roger Stone, and then here with Michael Flynn. They also showed Roger Stone in group chats with the leaders of the Oath Keepers and the Proud Boys. Stone denies this, but does that give a thread to follow that could link Trump to knowledge of what was happening, Phil?
Yeah. Oh.
Well, go ahead, Elliot. Go ahead, since you were going to answer.
No, it can, right? But I think in order to get the president, which is what, the question that everybody has is, what's the specific link to the president? You're going to need some more direct communication than is available right now. Now, again, is this disqualifying for future office? Absolutely. Now, there's all sorts of other crimes that may have been committed here, namely witness tampering, and I'm sure we're going to talk about that today, conspiracy against the United States. But this incitement to violence question and whipping up hate groups and charging the president for that is just going to be incredibly difficult to do based on the information that's available in the public now. Now, again, we don't know what the Justice Department has, and the way the Justice Department works is that it's not public with what goes on in its investigations. Yeah. So more may come out, but right now, at this minute, charging the president for those connections, I think would be incredibly difficult.
Well, Liz Cheney, who's a vice chair there. Go ahead, Alice, what do you want to say?
Don, I think there's two different lanes here. There's the court of public opinion, and then there's the court of law, which the DOJ will make a decision on that. I think without a doubt, without question, this committee has moved the ball and moved the needle in the court of public opinion. And not just Liz Cheney and not just Democrats on the committee. We're talking Republicans in Trump's inner circle. What we heard today, before, during, and after January 6th, his involvement and his culpability in this riot at the Capitol. We heard former top aide Jason Miller say that early on he told the president with regard to voter irregularities and voter fraud, evidence of that is thin, if not non-existent. We had his top campaign advisor, Brad Parscale, acknowledge in text to Katrina Pearson that Trump's rhetoric did lead to the riots and even death and he feels badly about his involvement in that. And then we heard from Cipollone, who is a credible, reliable, trusted legal advisor for the president, acknowledged that that absurd meeting on December 18th should not have happened, and trying to take the ballot boxes is not what we do in this country, and he gave him good legal advice with regard to that. And then the morons today that were out there at January 6th acknowledged that they were going to do and willing to do whatever the president said, and did so until the president finally pulled them away. So there is indisputable evidence and information that he is directly responsible for what happened. But the question is, how big of impact will that have on voters in the midterm elections, and what will DOJ decide to do with what we've heard in these hearings?
Ashley, you have been sitting by patiently, and I just wanted to, she mentioned Liz Cheney. Liz Cheney is a vice chair. She's saying that she feels like Trump allies are attempting to defend Trump by saying that he was influenced by some rogue operatives. Listen, and then we'll discuss.
This new strategy is to try to blame only John Eastman or Sidney Powell or Congressman Scott Perry or others, and not President Trump. In this version, the president was, quote, poorly served by these outside advisors. The strategy is to blame people his advisors called, quote, the crazies for what Donald Trump did. This, of course, is nonsense. President Trump is a 76-year-old man. He is not an impressionable child.
So, Ashley, the argument that Trump could claim ignorance here, I mean, that's falling apart, don't you think?
Absolutely. I mean, he was the person that made the call that said, come to the nation's capital. The other thing, though, is that it's not like when he knew, because we know he knows that he lost that election in December. But that's not the first time Donald Trump started to say he didn't believe he won the election. He had been laying breadcrumbs the whole year trying to undermine our institution of democracy, so that when and if he lost the election, he could claim, oh, there's no way it could be possible. The election didn't have any integrity. He knew. He incited people to go to the Capitol, and I think he should be held accountable in the court of law. Now, whether or not the committee made its case today, I don't think it was the strongest hearing to date, but I do think ignorance is not the defense that he should try and claim. And he is the president of the United States. Was, yeah, thank God. He was the president of the United States. He knew, and he is responsible for what happened that day.
A couple of things here. And after all of that, right, after all that he's been accused of doing, they're now accusing him of trying to intimidate a witness or to influence a witness, right? So we're going to talk about that. And also, I think Alice brings up something that's very important. What does this mean for the midterms, and what does it mean for the next election, and does this weaken the former president? Stick around, everybody. We'll be right back.